Welcome to the Way We Capture podcast. This is a podcast that is dedicated to photography and aims to provide guidance and support to individuals looking to improve their photography skills. The podcast focuses on self-development and also discusses the future of technology and image processing. Through the podcast, listeners can learn about various techniques, tools, and resources to enhance their creativity and productivity. The podcast also explores the creative process behind capturing stunning photographs and how to effectively communicate through photography and storytelling. Welcome to episode 18 of the Way We Capture podcast. This week's guest is Nick Miller. Nick is a former aerospace engineer, and now he's talking to us about his journey being a writer and content creator. Nick is a great friend. This is a banger of an episode, so I'm super excited to dive deep into this one. Hope you guys enjoy. Welcome to the Way We Capture podcast. This week's guest, Nick Miller. Woo. So I just introduced Nick in the intro, but I will let Nick go ahead and tell us who he is and what he does. Start off.
Hey, what's up, Zach? Thanks for having me, man.
Of course.
It's cool to be here. Yeah, dude. A little bit about myself. I studied aerospace engineering in college, which is about 2 years ago. I'm 24 now, and always was interested in entrepreneurship, but didn't really know how to get into it. I mean, I kind of dabbled here and there in college, trying to start a clothing brand, trying to resell like thrift store clothing, tried to do drop shipping, all these different things, but I still kind of felt the pressure from the exterior, like expectations, etc., to go ahead, finish school, and like get the 9 to 5. And I didn't really know what else to do, so I kind of just did that. I ended up working in the defense industry for 2 years as a systems engineer. So on some like defense technology, I had like a clearance, like all that good stuff. And the entire time I was pretty miserable, to be honest. And about halfway through, probably a year into working the 9 to 5, I came across the creator economy and Twitter, which is now X, and the ability to, build online, create an audience, build products, all this great stuff. And I started meeting all these cool people, and that kind of has got me where I am today in terms of, meeting friends online. I just like made my first dollar online a couple months ago. I also quit my job recently too, so that's kind of crazy. And
Yeah.
yeah, dude, yeah, it was wild. But yeah, so right now I'm kind of doing some audience management. I'm writing online, also doing some ghost writing. So dabbling here and there and trying to really hone in on making money online. It's a fun journey for sure.
Do you want to tell the audience what kind of job you quit?
Yeah. So I quit a systems engineering job. So I studied aerospace. It was in the aerospace industry or defense industry, but I was a systems engineer. So I kind of helped take requirements from a government customer, so like the U.S. government, and worked with a team of engineers that I led with a program manager to design the defense technology that we were kind of hired to build and design, made for like mass production and stuff. So yeah, I can't really get too much in the
Yeah,
details
can't
because
get into nitty gritty
otherwise,
for sure.
yeah, might go to prison. But yeah, that's kind of all I could say.
Yeah, you were doing some important stuff, but it didn't feel like it was for you, correct?
Yeah, no, 100%, man. It was not the move for me. There was something deep in my soul the entire time I was there that was like, this can't be it. There's got to be more. It just felt like, although I met a lot of great people working there, it just felt like in that environment, I, I like my potential was capped, and
But
I felt like I could do more.
yeah, as great minds usually do.
I'm good, yeah.
So,
Well, I don't know if I'm a great mind
ah,
yet, but hopefully one
so
day.
hopefully one day, yeah, we can all hope. But that leads to my first question about it all, which is the transition from aerospace engineering to content marketing. What motivated your shift from aerospace engineering to content marketing, and how have the skills from your engineering background influenced your approach to marketing and writing?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, the transition was it was definitely a tough one. Uh, at least mentally. I think, when you are kind of letting go of a comfortable situation, right? It's you're kind of thrown into the fire and you have to just like figure it out. And I think we're all still figuring it out, but I know for me, it was kind of leaving the comfort more so to get away from the comfort and like get some motivation under me to actually make things happen. I was writing online probably for I'd say about 10 or 11 months before I fully quit. And I still hadn't made my first dollar online. And I just knew that I needed the motivation of like, I either make this work or I starve kind of thing to really get me going. Because working like 9 hours a day and then coming home, the last thing I really wanted to do was grind for 2 or 3 hours and then go to bed.
It's
So
hard, man.
that
It's
was,
hard. That
yeah,
that 5 to 9 is harder than that 9 to 5 for sure.
dude, super tough. We're like trying to get it done beforehand and then trying to go to the gym at the same time. It's just like there's a lot of things to balance. Yeah, I have
Too
a
many
lot of respect.
priorities, not enough time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. I have a lot of respect for people who can pull it off. But yeah, in terms of the skill set transfer, I would say the skills that transferred were soft skills. I did a lot of talking. I did a lot of presentations. I did a lot of say coordination, like leading, things of that nature within my 9 to 5, which definitely transitioned well to the creator economy because although we're trying to write, trying to maybe grow an audience, trying to create products, all these things, there is always that core of networking and getting to know people and presenting your ideas in the right way. And I'd say that that was the thing that I was able to take from that job into this new domain.
Communication is the ultimate meta skill, and you, my friend, have great communication skills. That was one of the first things I noticed. So, especially within your content itself, just bold, a very bold kind of person that Nick is. We've had a call before, and he just told me straight, pretty much what needed to happen and how he sees the world, and I have a lot of respect for him because of that. So, because this journey that you have with content and writing is kind of it's like the new frontier for you. There's a lot of things left undiscovered, but it's improved your life in such a way that obviously you've committed to it at this point. You walked away from a great job. Everybody thought you were crazy, but you knew the situation and yourself better than anybody. So it takes a lot of confidence to do that. But can you walk us through your journey of making your first dollar online? What were some key strategies or mindset that helped you succeed in this transition?
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of a very wild series of events that led me to making my first dollar online. And I did it in a really roundabout way. It kind of came to me than rather me like chasing it. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this strategy to everybody because it's not very dependable, right? Like I wasn't going after it as hard as I could have. But with that said, I'll kind of explain it. So, well, let's see, back in February of 2023, I had already been writing online for about 3 or 4 months, and I got to a point where I was like, I got to choose something. So I've been hearing a lot about ghostwriting. I need to learn more about ghostwriting. So I started talking to people, trying to get more information on how to do it, and I ended up hearing a lot about Taylor Simmons. And I had messaged Taylor a few times before that. He was probably about 2,000, 3,000 followers at the time.
Shout out
Very
Taylor.
focused. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. He's got like 75,000 followers right now. He was probably around like that size when I started talking to him because he was Dakota Robertson's case study.
Yeah.
So he was making like 40K a month doing ghostwriting, all this stuff. And I really resonated with his content and who I thought him to be on the timeline. And it turned out he's even better than he comes across on the timeline. He's a great guy.
Dude, I love his pod. Anytime Talon's on a podcast, it's definitely a hard listen to. He was with Jack Moses on Jack's podcast, and dude, Talon opened my mind to a whole different world. So never talked to him
Yeah.
personally, but his content definitely speaks, loud, loud and informal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he is probably the definition of over delivering.
Yeah.
Uh, but I DM'd him and I was like, "Hey, dude, I need coaching. I need something." I came to a point where I realized I needed to invest in my education online. I got tired of, saving all the threads that people wrote on how to do it and watching the YouTube videos and trying to figure it out. That I kind of
Beginner
realized
hell,
I have
man.
to,
Beginner
yeah,
hell.
dude, 100%. And I realized I gotta just invest in a cohort or a product. I was very reluctant. Like, my relationship with money was very scarce. Like I can't spend it, can't spend it. But I ended up messaging him, asked him if he had coaching, and he was like, "Oh, coaching for what?" And I was like, "Oh, ghostwriting." And he's like, "Dude, I actually have a cohort, a ghostwriting cohort going on right now. It's halfway through. I can give you half off if you want to just hop in, and it's going to be 2,500 bucks." And I was like, I've never spent 2,500 bucks like faster. I was like, oh, okay, half off. What? Yes, of course, let's do it. And this like changed the trajectory, I'd say, of my journey online and my relationships, everything. And I didn't even realize it. But what it was is Talon had never advertised this ghostwriting cohort. He hadn't put it on the timeline. He hadn't, done any marketing for it, anything like that. So when I joined, I ended up being in this cohort with about 10 or 11 other people, other creators who were already doing ghostwriting, who were already successful. There was a few like me who were just getting into the game, but it was just full of killers, just people who are dead set on doing this stuff. And it was a great environment to be in, to meet people, and to get, build a relationship with a few guys that I actually talk to on a weekly basis now, get to know Talon better. And what ended up happening was I made a friend with one of the creators in there who is killing it on LinkedIn. And he, let's see, I'm trying to word it carefully. I don't want to, give too much sauce away, but he, I created a lot of friendships in that cohort, right? And a couple months down the line, as I'm still talking to these guys, building relationships, like really resonating with them and hopping on calls, my one friend in the cohort, he reached out to me and he was like, he was telling me, "Hey, dude, I've been doing this audience management for these big creators. I who he had met through the cohort. He's like, they reached out to me to help them do commenting for them, like replies, all this stuff. He's like, and one of them referred me to somebody else who referred me to this guy who has a ghostwriting agency and he needs help and I need help to fulfill. So would you like to do this? I know you can do it." And I'm like, whew. I'm like, yeah,
That's
yes,
a
please.
crazy thing to accept and head on into on just
Yeah,
without knowing how it's going to, without knowing the outcome. Because a lot of times when you're picking up work like that, like you don't know who's on the other side, right? It's like, where's this going to take me? Who am I dealing with? So
yeah,
that's fucking awesome. I love that, man.
yeah. It was kind of wild because I at the time I feel like I had a lot of limiting beliefs about making money online, and I had just quit my job. It was like a couple of days after I quit my job that I got this message from one of my friends, and I was like, holy, oh my gosh, like the stars aligned, like
Yeah.
this is crazy, and it has totally shifted my perspective on like just getting that first like 700 bucks like into my Stripe account was just like,
Check.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what? It was like this is weird, dude. This is you could do like I could do
You
this. It
feel
made me,
so
yeah,
detached from a system when that's the case.
yeah.
I made my first dollar back in 21 selling NFTs of my photography. Dude,
Oh, nice.
that changed everything, man. So like I know the feeling you went through. Like, it's not, the circumstances aren't the same, but the feeling is there, man. And that tweet that you wrote that did so well, it's like, what was it? I made $700 online this week, and I feel richer than I ever did with a 90K salary. Like,
Yeah.
perspective, the framing, dude, just incredible story. Like, more people need that experience, and I think that would contribute to more people realizing like this is legit. You can make a living online. You don't need a 9 to 5. And while we're not going to sit
Yeah.
here and bash 9 to 5s, many of us have chosen the anti-vision of the last thing I want to fucking do with my life is work a 9 to 5 for 40
Yeah.
years. So
Yep.
many of us on this journey align with each other in that sense of that's not it. It's not it. You
Yep.
know, there's a new frontier to explore, and we're all on this path. So I salute you, my friend, for making that dollar, and I hope you make many more.
Thank you. Yeah, I do want to talk a little on that point. You said, you know, as much as I have qualms with the 9 to 5, and maybe mine specifically, it's it's like a love-hate relationship
Yeah.
because my parents, my mom has been working a 9 to 5 for 40 plus years, the same job since she was 19, and I wouldn't have been able to, do the things that I'm now doing if it wasn't for her working that job, and being able to
That
help
sacrifice.
support family with my dad, my dad working too. And it's just like it's like there's things that can come out of it, but it's such a yeah, it's such a balance.
Oh, yeah.
I look to her and like as like inspiration, but also, you know, I want to help get her out of that, and I know I can't do that by being in a 9 to 5,
Yeah. I think it's a stepping stool, or a stepping stone, not a stool,
Yeah.
or a stool.
That might be a stool. Yeah.
So it is a stool to kind of push you up to the next level. And I
Yeah.
think when people first start writing online, I've noticed when they hop into the creator economy, it's big bash on 9 to 5s, right? It's like, oh, you work a 9 to 5, let's look down at you. And it's like, hold on, wait. The next phase is kind of appreciating it for what it is, because some people it's required to pull themselves out of the shit that they live in.
Yes.
And
Yep.
for the most part, I think your story captured my attention because you were making that 90K salary or maybe more, whatever. But just that number alone really was like significant, right? Because what are you? You're a little bit older than me, right? 24.
Yep.
And
24.
some
Yeah.
people sacrifice so much in their lives and they work so long just to not even make that. So you went the traditional path. You learned your lesson, and then you decided at the end of it, like dude, for most people, that's like the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Like they'll sit there and the rest of their life will live on autopilot. But I make a significant salary, so my sense of worth is tied to that. But you were just like, fuck that. And having the balls to say fuck that in that situation, man, that is why your story is so powerful. Like, I was just like, the fuck? Like when I read it and when we had that conversation, it was just like, dude, that is conviction, and your conviction sells, right? It's like you've done the thing, and then you decided the thing was not for you. So it's almost like a beacon of light to people who do feel trapped by that sense of comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing that I've noticed kind of talking more about my experience in the 9 to 5. And, you know, I've talked a couple, I've talked a little bit about the nuances on the timeline. There's definitely parts of it that people enjoy, people love. This 9 to 5 is, it's not for everybody, but it definitely is for a lot of people,
It's a good
right?
enemy for the writing, though, because everyone can relate to it.
Yeah. And it's crazy because you mentioned that for some people that's the light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, it felt like the opposite. Instead of feeling like I was stepping up in life, despite what everybody else was telling me, my it, it's it was really like I had toiled with this for like the entire 2 years. Like I got very depressed at times, like mentally distraught because it's like this cognitive dissonance where people are telling you you're doing so well, like you are successful, like you did it, like we're so proud of you. And as good as that makes you feel, you also realize like no, I feel like I took a step down. Like I feel worse now. Like what's going on? Like I'm supposed to feel happy and I don't feel happy. Like what? Like what the hell? Like
Totally, dude. Yeah,
yeah,
and I wonder how many other people actually feel that way,
I think a lot
because
of people do.
success is very subjective, but we're taught that it's an objective. It's like, oh, you just get rich and you get jacked, and all of a sudden you're happy. And while there are
Yep.
like, there's some truth to that, right? I think Naval had a quote about you need to get the sports cars, the big house, and the hot wife in order to realize none of that stuff actually makes you happy. but you need to
Mm.
achieve that material success. And Dan Coe talks about it a little bit too. But I think there's some truth to that. But at the same time, if you can if you just leapfrog that whole stage of thinking to where like you realize happiness comes from within, and it's just in your day to day, in your sense of routine and commitment to what you actually love, there's so much power there, man. And you could genuinely improve yourself, improve your tribe, and then if you decided to improve the world, you go ahead and start improving the world. But it's a fucking awesome story. I just have to, like, to the audience listening, like, you guys need to go check out Nick's content. Like, if you want to get into content marketing, create personal brands on X. We're not even going to use the term personal brand. That's last year. If you want to like learn more about Nick, in the show notes, I will have his website, his X, and anything else he wants me to plug there for him. But we're going to be moving on to a couple more topics specifically on self-improvement and personal growth, because you've had a journey yourself. One of my first interactions with you on the timeline was your transformation. I think you had like some hair, and then you like shaved it off in the next photo, and it was just
Yeah.
like, all right, that's powerful. Let's fucking go. So, how has your interest in self improvement influenced your career as a content marketer and writer? Are there specific practices or philosophies that you found particularly beneficial or negative?
Mm. Yeah, it's been a profound impact on my journey so far. And I feel like improvement is the frame at which I look at what I do on a level. I'm always trying to progress, and that can be a double-edged sword. It can be a positive thing because there is always room to grow and there's always something to improve on. But at the same time, if you're always focused on improving, you can easily overlook the progress that you've already made. And there have been a lot of times where I've gotten down on myself or my self-esteem was low when in reality I should have been proud of myself
And
for what
celebrating.
I've already done. Yeah, should have been celebrating. So I think that's an important part of it. And it's definitely influenced my writing a lot on X. I mean, there's a big part of the things I write about is kind of self-improvement and mindset as well, because that's a huge part of not only my everyday and my thinking, but I think it's a huge part of getting to that next level, right? Like I love, as I'm trying to get to the next level, I'd love to we'll get there as well and share the lessons that I'm learning along the way. It's it's huge, it's especially with writing, not just on the timeline and content or emails, writing itself, just when you sit alone and just kind of brain dump and just write like 5 pages out and just kind of let it go. There's a lot of things that you can find out about yourself that you wouldn't have otherwise. It gives you that like weird third person perspective.
Digging deeper and realizing, did I write this? Like, this looks fucking weird to look at, but you know what? Like, let's go with it.
Yep.
I relate to that, dude. Like the writing habit, it's just so powerful. Like I'm assuming you read as well, like a ton.
Yeah, I go through phases. I think right now I'm in a more of like a watching phase. I'm like watching courses and stuff, but I'm definitely getting back into reading. At one point I was just like crushing the Kindle. I got a Kindle like last year, and it's just like,
I've never been
yeah,
much of a
yeah,
Kindle guy, just because I like the visual aesthetic of building a library. Like,
yeah,
dude, I have issues with buying books, but I think a lot of people who start reading are like, yeah, like that looks cool. Like, oh, let's go to the bookstore or let's order something online. But it's something that like the reading and writing, and a lot of my content I preach like the easiest way to improve yourself, read and write. It's that simple. And I think for people who aren't like, I think I saw not I think I know I saw a study that younger people today are reading way less than ever. And even just like as a general statistic, like I believe the population reads less because everything is through the smartphone or the computer, or because books themselves are competing directly with like Netflix, Fortnite, like all sorts of stuff, like other entertainment. But when you choose education and self-learning as entertainment, that's the key right there. Like that's the secret people are looking for in the self-improvement realm. So it's always great to meet other people, and that's why X is so powerful, is because you're meeting other people who choose education as a form of entertainment. Then you interact, and then they're entertaining you with their ideas, and so it's just a beautiful thing. But I know with self improvement and mindset, exercise and whole foods and nutrition are really important to you. How do you use these elements, and how does it contribute to your productivity and creativity as a content creator?
Yeah, dude, those are huge. I I've always been interested in fitness and getting fit and stuff. Like I did, it's funny, I didn't really do many sports at all. I played soccer when I was maybe in like elementary school, but I remember in high school I tried out for the lacrosse team because I had a bunch of friends in lacrosse. They're like, dude, try out, try out. Dude, I like bombed. Dude, I bombed. I went into the practice like not junior year, sophomore year of high school, where everybody's playing since they're like five, and I just like fucking bombed shit. Like I wasn't like great at it. I was like semi-athletic, like I played basketball in middle school and stuff, but once I got to college and even out of college, I kind of struggled staying consistent in the gym. And I think that was a result of me not really knowing what my goals were and what I wanted to do. But recently, I've kind of realized it's okay. If I'm serious about getting to the next level, I need to I need to get my shit together, you know? And I think I really, really believe that if you want a sound mind and you want to be focused, that it really starts with the body. You can meditate and write all you want, and maybe that works for some people, but for me, I realized that when I go to the gym, not only does it help like calm my mind, and like I went earlier and I just got out of the gym and I had no thoughts like at all. I was like, this is peace. Like this is
Oh,
you know what I mean?
so amazing to have no thoughts.
Yeah, that's so nice. But yeah, I realized that okay, I need to not only do this for my mind, but also I one thing that really hit me was thinking forward to like who I want to be. I listened to this one podcast. I think it was Modern Wisdom, and Chris Williamson had on this guest talking about psychology. I forget the psychologist's name, but he went through this one exercise that was, people rarely plan their lives. They rarely look ahead and think, okay, do I want a family? Do I want kids? Do I want to get married? Do like what how much money do I want to make? All these things. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to get married, when do you want to get married by? It's like, oh shit, I didn't really think about that. It's like, okay, well, maybe I want to get married by the time I'm 30. So now I think about it, I kind of work backwards. That's 6 years from now. That's 2029. Okay, so when I get married, how do I want to look? Like, who do I want to be? What kind of like father do I want to be, 10 years from now?
Those are the
Like,
great
think,
questions.
dude,
Those are
it's
those
crazy.
are
I
the
never thought
questions.
about these things.
Yeah.
Dude, I never thought about these things, but when I did, I realized, oh, okay, if I want to get there in 6 years, I need to have the habits that allow me to do that, and I need to start now.
Time
Like,
is ticking, man.
dude,
That
it's crazy.
synchronicity hits you like a truck, and you find that from the reflection. So that a
Yeah.
little bit of self introspection provides more than enough value. You don't need
Yep.
value outside of yourself, right? It's all up here. But
Mhm.
dude, the scariest thing is how people can live their life on autopilot and just keep going. Eventually, I feel like someone comes along who kind of opens your mind up to different perspectives, and we all know the person who kind of put us on this journey, or like guided us at least. That's all what we're trying to do. We're just trying to repay it back, you know.
Yep.
But awesome, dude. Like I'm trying to think. You you had a post about pretty much, it was like diet, like what you're eating and stuff. You do like a
Mhm.
lot of grass fed beef and stuff, right? And
Ideally, yeah, ideally,
have you gotten on the raw
ideally
milk?
grass fed and stuff. What's up,
Have you gotten on the raw milk grind? Sorry to interrupt you.
dude? I No, you're good. I did try raw milk for a bit, and the grass fed. I was going on that, but dude, that sounds kind of expensive right
Dude,
now.
oh yeah, you know,
Yeah,
going to the
it's
grocery store and
yeah.
what, $80 for like hardly anything, you know?
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh. So it's crazy too, because I'm out in LA right now. I've been out in LA for the past year, and everything out here is like two times the price. So when I
Wow.
was getting that stuff, it was like, oh, I don't know if I could sustain this right now, So what I've been doing is I'll just like drink like normal like organic milk and like organic beef and rice and fruit. I'm trying like the animal-based diet,
Like the carnivore.
but it's kind of like carnivore, but you can have carbs where you have like fruit, honey, and some like white rice. So I keep it super simple. Just eat like eggs, fruit, milk, honey, yogurt. So like dairy, meat,
Some
stuff like
steaks and
that.
some
But
beef.
yeah,
Dude,
dude,
that is
100%.
exactly what I eat, man. So hell yeah,
Yeah,
the raw honey grind, that has
dude,
been a game changer, bro.
honey is amazing. I actually, not to go off a tangent, but I had when I was younger, probably like fourth or fifth grade, my dad, I came back from school and we learned about honeybees. And I was telling my dad, I was like, yeah, it's crazy. Like the honeybees, they get the honey, the flowers, blah, blah. And he told me that his father used to have beehives in their backyard when he was a kid. And he looked at me and I remember I was in the car, we're coming back from school, and he's like, you want to get some bees? I was like, what?
You're like,
Like,
hell
what
yeah,
the
I want
hell?
to get some bees.
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean? Okay, like we're in New Jersey, we're in the suburbs. It's like, yeah, okay. So next thing I know, like, like maybe a month or two later, like we got like a box of honeybees in the mail. Like you literally buy like a colony of bees and they come in the mail. And we got all the stuff and we, over the next like year or two, we like I think right now we have probably four hives at our house in New Jersey, but at one point we had like
What?
10 or
That
11
is awesome.
beehives.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
it's crazy.
So
Yeah,
what did
there's
you learn from tending beehives?
oh man, there's a lot of stuff. It's crazy because when we started, my dad had like a full like cliche like bee suit, like he had like long pants, sleeves, you duct tape your cut like your pant legs, you wear gloves, duct tape this, like you're like isolated. And I was kind of the same way. But as we got more and more into it, eventually it got to the point where I could just go out there with just the veil on, so they don't like, land on your face and stuff, in shorts, t-shirt, no gloves, nothing, and just like open up the hive and get in there, and the bees are crawling all over you and stuff. It really teaches you to
Patience.
like be calm, patience,
Yeah.
to be calm because you can get in the hive and the bee is like it's weird, dude. Honeybees, and I think, all animals like they have like a mood to them. So you can open up the beehive and if they like jump on you and they're a little jumpy, you're like, oh, okay, I gotta like chill out. Maybe right now is not the right time. Maybe just, but they can like sense your energy.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
super weird
It,
experiencing
sound,
that.
it
And
sounds kind of woo woo, but
yeah,
dude, it's real.
oh yeah, yeah. It's like especially when you're like literally surrounded by thousands of bees flying around you, and like you gotta like be
But you've been
calm.
stung a lot, right? You've been stung a lot.
Yeah, yeah, quite a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I remember the first time I got stung as a kid. Oh, I was at the pool, dude. It was a wasp. It just like stung me right in the back of my calf. I
Oof.
freaked out. I was like 9 years old, dude. And I used to love going swimming at the pool. And my mom was just like, "Why are you freaking out? What's wrong?" And I was just like crying tears. And it was
Yeah.
like it hurt me, but honestly, it was more like it hurt more from like the psychological pain of like wasps stinging you or like yellow
Hmm.
jackets rather than like the actual sting. Like the actual sting was just like quick, sharp, and I was like, ah, and then it was like, ah, there's more, like stung. But
Yeah.
yeah, that psychological
Yeah.
pain. Yeah, I definitely made it like 10 times worse on myself. But I'll never forget the first time I got stung, dude. Haven't been stung
Yeah.
since. Knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Nice.
Feel like it's another day at my parents' house. Putting my hand in the beehive.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
Yep.
awesome. You should write about that. That was a great story.
Yeah. I've been trying to like figure out how to write about it. I do have it in my queue. So yeah, that's thanks for that. I'll have to work
Tales
on
from
it.
the beehive.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we're getting to like the 40-minute mark, but I'll ask you a few more questions just because I'm having a great time. So,
Yeah, man.
advice for aspiring online creators because you're kind of overcoming that hump. You've been in the game for a while, so I think you're qualified to give some advice to people who are new to the game. For those looking to make a similar leap into online creation and writing, what advice would you offer based on your own experiences and learnings?
Yeah. The basics. I think if we were to start from like the base level and kind of work our way up, would be to post every day and just make that a habit. It's gonna suck at first, and it's probably gonna suck for a while. Like I still write tweets that flop, and it's just a part of the game. So just write every day because you will get better, and make sure you kind of reflect. If something does well, like look at it, kind of read through it, and try to figure out why it did well, and start using that when you write more and more. And if you keep like iterating like that, as well as studying other content that you see, if you're going to be writing online, you're going to probably be consuming content from other creators. And so I couldn't stress enough to see content that does well and save that. Save it in like a swipe file, save it in like a Google Doc, whatever you need to do. And take some time, like 10, 15 minutes to just like look at it and see why did it do well? Like who were they talking to? What was the problem that this is solving? What's the solution that they proposed? And if you can kind of break that down and try to use that in your own content, you'll get better a lot faster. One mistake I made in the beginning was just posting every day and not iterating. Like I would just post just to post. And as good as that is for practicing, etc., you don't really make progress. It's like, you're not getting better. You're just doing the same thing over and over. So there is like a concept that you need to capture in terms of iterating. That's
Recycle your
important.
ideas and then refine
Yeah,
them. That's I like
exactly.
the word iterate though. It just kind of like comes off the tongue nice.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's a harsh lesson, and I see it a lot of times on X where like people will stop posting, and I'm notorious for it. I'll stop posting, but I found that whenever I recycle some of my ideas, I didn't necessarily do as great of a job as I thought at the original idea. So that's a difference
yes.
right there. It's like, oh, like I thought when I wrote that, I thought it was a banger, and now that I'm looking at it like 2, 3 months, I'm like, the fuck was I thinking? But
Yep.
for a lot of writing, just so everybody's aware, like the majority of what you write online, you could write the best body or conclusion, but if your hook is not killer, it's not going to get anyone's attention. So
Yep.
Nick is actually pretty good at hook writing, I would say. I think he's got some killer hooks. Nick, do you want to give the audience any advice on hook writing?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. What can we pull out? What's probably the most important thing I think for writing hooks comes down to ca capturing attention, of course, right? The whole goal, what you want to get people to do is when think about it from the reader's perspective. If somebody is scrolling through their For You page or even follows you and sees your content, if you don't make them stop the scroll, if you don't make them stop scrolling and like try to like read, like want to read your content, uh, then you failed. And all the other work that you put into writing, whatever that thread, that post, it goes nowhere. So if you try to look at it from the perspective of stopping the scroll, it gets a little easier. And it's this is a very like nuanced subject, so forgive me if this isn't extremely actionable, but
Go for it, bro.
when you when you write something, there's a bunch of different frameworks you can use, but I would say like a big thing is to try to surprise somebody, like with the first line. And the whole point, this is kind of from copywriting, but what you want to do is your first line, the only purpose of your first line is to get the person to read the next line. And the only purpose of that next line is to get them to read the next line. And so on and so forth. You want to structure it to where you kind of guide them down the page. And this isn't something that if you're starting from zero that you could just like, Nick just said this and now I'm going to do it. But I would try to practice that and keep that in mind when you're writing. And also start looking at other content from the lens of a creator. Because if you hear, what I'm saying, what Zach's saying, and you start looking at other people's content, you can start realizing, oh, okay, I see how they wrote it. Oh, they didn't use these words, they used like this tense, or they surprised me in this. Okay, this is actually a hook. Oh, that's another hook. Oh, okay. So you start realizing it, breaking down, and then emulating, not copying, but try to emulate
The
what
structure
those people are doing.
and the
Yep,
ideas. That's great
exactly.
advice. I like the principles approach rather than the tactics. Yeah. You're not saying
Uh,
this is best. You need to do this. Principles. Thank you, Nick.
100%. Yeah. No, I like that you mentioned that a lot actually, because you will see everybody has got a new tactic.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's got, oh, this is the best tactic. Oh, you got to use this framework. Oh, you got to write like this. So you got to do. Everyone's got something to say about tactics. I'll just say it right
Oh
now.
yeah.
There's
Everybody's
so
got
many
a tactic.
creators. Yeah, everybody's got a tactic too. But the thing is, you got to keep the principles, right? Capture attention, make sure it's relevant to your audience, and call to action, whether that's teaching them something actionable, like this is how do X, Y, Z, or hey, follow me. Like those are the three things. If you can capture attention, I'd remember these three things. Capture attention. Every post got to do these three things. Capture attention. It's got to be relevant to your audience, and you have to have a CTA, so a call to action of some sort. And so if you can, because the whole point of what we're doing, right, is writing content is either to educate somebody, entertain them, or inspire them.
Inspire.
And so those are the three actions that we want to call them to, or maybe follow as well. But when you write a piece of content, it's like, what are you giving to somebody? Are and if you think about it from those three lenses, I think it helps a lot.
I love that, dude. Love that. There's the education, inspire, and the entertain. But on the flip side, with problems, it's like everyone's problem always exists within health, wealth, or relationships if it's not
Of
really
course.
nuanced. But the nuanced take is a lot of people want to hear what you have to say because you have a set of specific knowledge, and all of like beginners get on X. Like we're both beginners. They get on X, they start writing platitudes. And the thing is platitudes do really well if it's nuanced principles. And people like
Hmm.
Naval, dude. Naval's platitudes go crazy because he's got so much nuance to his principles. And a few other people come to mind for sure. But then eventually it just gets rewritten, and you lose the foundation of principles that it stood on. So great advice, dude. Like actually great, solid advice. I might take some of that myself.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I got to remind myself of it too, because you know it's so easy to try to learn something new, but a lot of the times we just have to repeat the basics.
Yeah,
And oh, I do want to add one more thing that you kind of
yeah,
touched on with the principles or the platitudes. I think the reason that Naval's platitudes do so well is because of who is saying them,
yeah.
right? So you'll notice it's funny, right? Like if your mom tells you, "Hey, you should go outside and like get some sun," you're gonna be like, "Shut up, mom." I mean, maybe you're not gonna say that, obviously, but you know what
Some
I
people
mean? Like you're
might,
gonna,
man. You never know.
dude, yeah, some spoiled kids. I would get hit if I said
I
that,
would
but
call,
but
yeah,
like
absolutely.
in in your mind, you're like, yeah, yeah, okay, like all right, mom, like okay, sure, but if like a very successful entrepreneur who you look up to is like, you need to get outside and you need to get sunlight and you need to fucking, you need to get together, get this together.
Watch
It's
the young boys, dude, who are like worshiping Andrew Tate. He's like, get outside, get some sunlight, eat some oranges. They're gonna
yeah,
follow
right.
him.
And he's
Yeah, it's influential.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
good
because
point.
he's not saying anything new. It's just like who it's coming from makes all the difference. I've had it always baffles me because there's always something like that's so obvious. I'll be talking to a successful creator or an entrepreneur that I got connected with, and they tell me, "Yeah, man, it's just about this," and I'm like, "Bro, I already knew that," but it hits so much harder because of who it's coming from, because you know that they are where you want to be, and that it has a lot more impact depending on who it comes from, but also
There's a flip side to that. There is a flip side to
there there is a flip side. I guess the other aspect to that I think would be valuable for people to realize is, okay, if you're starting out and you don't, you're a quote unquote nobody, right? Like you don't have an audience, maybe you don't have much experience. People, you like even if you say those things, it's not going to hit. But what will hit and resonate with people is telling your story. And I don't mean, okay, I grew up, I was born in 1990, blah blah blah, and I don't mean like that. I mean, talking about your experiences with what you're learning, your experiences in life. Like it doesn't matter if your content is focused on the writing niche or the business niche or this or that. You can still write about like your weight loss journey. You can still write about like how you just crushed a 5K, or even how, somebody said hello to you in the grocery store and it like made your day and like you had all these realizations, like those experiences, and talking about those things on the timeline will resonate with people to the extent of where they're like, oh, like I relate to that and I want to see more of what you have to say. And I think that's very important for people to realize.
everybody's got a story. Stories are all around us. I
Yeah, man.
think people don't remember their stories as well because they don't have a system in place to retain them. So that, dude, learning how to retain the stories around me and write the stories around me, just for myself, like nobody else really. Like, I have a library of stories of things that have happened from random days. Just one story
Hmm.
a day, dude. Like that actually changed my life, in the best way
Yeah.
possible. I need to tap into the power of storytelling. One of my best friends actually is writing a whole. He's a music producer, but his whole thing is storytelling in boom bap, hip hop. And so,
Oh,
yeah, he's been writing a course on it, and I had one of my episodes with him. Maybe I think it was like episode 14, something like that, 13. Yeah, great guy, Alex Lacey. Shout out to Alex and the power of storytelling because that's where we're at right now.
yeah.
But
It's huge.
it is massive, dude. So I think that's what connects all of us, especially in the creative mediums, writing, photography, music, even. Like everything's just a story. People who are designing characters or websites and stuff, it's like you're trying to tell a story. And, that's how we passed along information for so long. But
Yep.
just let's end on a good, positive note because we're at the end of the new year. What are your priorities for this upcoming year?
Yeah. Big priority number one is getting my business kind of stood up. I'm working, kind of doing, I guess, freelance kind of work with some audience management stuff. Working on building my audience, but I'm really trying to connect with agency owners and other entrepreneurs who I can learn from, I can help. So kind of
Win-wins.
getting my business together is a big priority for me, and making money online. Of course, everyone, oh, I want to make money, but I'd love to really like get it down and get things going. So I'd say that's my number one priority. My second priority is maintaining my health, and maybe that's number one. Maybe they're up there together. But eating healthy, staying fit, and then the third is just networking and making more friends. Um, yeah.
You hear that, ladies? You're not a priority next year for Nick Miller. No,
Well, maybe in the networking sense,
okay, okay, I see you.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, dude. I am super happy for you, and I'm so excited to see where you're going with all of this. But, anyways, guys, this is Nicholas Miller. I'm not even gonna describe you, dude. You're the guy, bro. You're the homie. You know what?
Yeah.
We already described Nick. We don't need to describe Nick again. Nick's a great guy. I really appreciate you hopping on the podcast, Nick. And is there any message you want to leave the people before we close out and end the recording?
Yeah, yeah. I think the thing I'll leave you guys with is whatever thing you're working on right now, like look at it as though it's a game, and whether it's business or working out or whatever, and the way to win the game, no matter what, is if you can play the longest. So as long as you don't quit, you will end up on top. And I think that's very crucial to keep in the back of your mind at all times, because there are going to be times where you want to quit, or you're like, you know what, fuck this, I don't want to do this, this isn't working. But as long as you realize that, as long as you just keep doing it, no matter what, despite how you feel, that you will figure it out, and
You'll get
you'll
there.
win. Yep.
Fuck yeah, Nick. I endorse that message, by the way. That
Oh
is a
yeah.
great message. That's been like my whole year, dude. Is how do I play the long game?
Yep.
But
Exactly.
we all play these short-term games until you realize, damn, nothing comes out of it except a little bit
Yep.
of pleasure every once in a while.
Exactly.
Dude, once again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This is gonna be a banger episode when it drops next Tuesday. So let's go.
Oh yeah, bro. Thanks for
Before
having me. I
before we
appreciate it,
hop
man.
off, I'm gonna grab a snipping tool of us just for a little promo. You okay
Oh,
with
for
that?
sure.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I'm gonna make sure you stare at your camera. I'm trying to stare at mine. All right. Hell yeah. Let's go.
Okay, dude. That was awesome.
This episode with Nick Miller was incredible. If you enjoyed the podcast, please give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. This is a zero-cost way to support me and what I do. Anyways, guys, stay creative.